Back to the daily grind, and y'all know we gotta talk about this. But before we do, make sure you hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not wearing your clown shoes, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
And finally, the UFC president Dana White, El Jefe, has mustered the courage to utter the words, Conor McGregor will be being stripped. Now, I'm just joking, but there was a lot of confusion surrounding what was going on with the Khabib Nurmagomedov Tony Ferguson title fight, because we all know, as of right now, technically, Tony Ferguson is the interim lightweight champion, and Conor McGregor is the disputed lightweight champion. But Khabib and Tony are going to schedule to fight for the real belt. And the only way that's possible is if Conor McGregor is either stripped or the UFC throws a whole some shenanigans into the game where they're like, no, we're going to have two lightweight champions, which would make zero sense at all. Or you have Tony Ferguson defending an interim belt while you have a champion that's healthy, which also wouldn't make any sense at all. So really the only thing that makes sense, and also given the fact that in both Tony Ferguson and Khabib Nurmagomedov's contract, it says they will be fighting for the real belt. Both of them have said we won't fight for the interim belt. So we all know that they're going to most likely strip Conor McGregor. But when Dana White was asked about this at a recent press conference after a fight, after maybe UFC 220, 221, Dana White was asked about it, and he said, hey, we'll get there. Right now, Conor McGregor's the champion. Like they would say, okay, so is he going to be stripped? We'll see. Like, we weren't getting, then another reporter asked him the same question. He kind of beat around the bush, so we didn't really understand what was going on. It left everybody in the media and fans to speculate, what's going to happen? Are we going to have two lightweight champions? Well, like, what's really going on here? And it seemed like the UFC might not want to strip Conor McGregor because he's their biggest star. He just fought Floyd Mayweather, so when he does come back to the octagon, he will be the biggest draw in UFC history, which he already was, but it'll be even to a higher magnitude now that he's fought Floyd Mayweather, and there's a whole new audience paying attention. I mean, he's also went, to the modeling world and the pop star, Demi Lovato. Conor McGregor's just been expanding his brand, whether he's fighting in the octagon or not. He's still just becoming more of a star, and essentially, he's definitely transcended the UFC. He fought one of the best boxers in the world, which is already transcending the UFC as far as, money is concerned. Conor McGregor made more money in that Floyd Mayweather fight than any UFC fighter has ever made in the history of a fight, and that's just a fact. So, Conor McGregor, when he does come back, a lot of people thought the UFC did not want to strip him because they're saying, well, then Conor wouldn't be a champion. And what I've been saying is, it doesn't matter. Just like Conor McGregor's transcended all of these things, he's transcended a UFC belt. You know what I'm saying? If Conor, and when I say he transcended the UFC, I just mean he's expanded his brand way farther than just a UFC fighter. Now, would Conor be as successful without the UFC? He could probably still be successful, but it might be a little dicey, if he actually went up against the UFC. I don't know about all of that. But either way, as I was saying, the UFC, Conor McGregor doesn't need the belt when he comes back to fight. If Conor McGregor fights Nate Diaz at 155 or 170 pounds, it doesn't have to be for the belt. It's going to be one of the biggest fights in UFC history, regardless of the belt. It's a grudge match. It's a trilogy fight. It's Conor. It's Nate. Everyone's watching, regardless of the belt. So Conor can get stripped or vacate or whatever happens with the belt. And it doesn't matter. He's still going to make his money. He's still going to get pay-per-view points. The belt is just, how he made history, one of the many ways he made history. He became the first fighter in the UFC to hold two belts at the same time, and that's not ever going to change. So that's why even if he loses this belt, gets stripped or whatever, he's going to be calling himself the champ, and you're going to have people who are, whenever it's time for Conor to fight, they're going to still be calling him the champ. You know what I'm saying? And I know a lot of people, Conor McGregor haters, hate that fact. But it's the fact. He was the first to do it. Now, there's probably more people on the way to do it. The UFC's been scheduling more champion versus champion super fights. Cormier versus Stipe. Possibly Demetrius Johnson versus TJ Dillashaw. Maybe Chris Cyborg versus Amanda Nunes. There's all type of stuff going on in the UFC. So there's likely to be another person to accomplish this soon. but Conor was the first to do it, on top of making a lot of money. You know, any of these other people that become the champ still aren't going to be Conor McGregor. Not only was he the first to do it, but he also transcended the sport in a way that's going to be hard to replicate. As far as fighting Floyd Mayweather, the trash talk, you know what I'm saying, and everything that he's done is really remarkable, and almost, I don't want to, it's definitely not unattainable because he did it, but it's going to take a while, you know what I'm saying. Either way, Conor McGregor most likely going to be stripped, but that's not all Dana White had to say. Also, this is another interesting thing that he said he made Conor McGregor. Now, this was in a separate, you know, case. Whenever he said he made Conor McGregor, it was at the same time as he said that Conor's going to be stripped. He didn't say like, oh yeah, we're going to strip Conor, you know, because we made Conor. You know, it was two different situations, but I'm just doing it in the same video because it's Conor and Dana. So with that being said, I'm going to read over what he said when he was confirming Conor will be stripped before we get to that. He said, when asked if Conor would be stripped, Dana White said, right. They said, is he upset? And he said, Conor understands. Conor made a lot of money and he wants some time off. But the division has to go on and the business has to go on. I'd like to see Conor fight the winner. Talking about Khabib Nurmagomedov versus Tony Ferguson. It was August and then September for his return. I say it all the time. With that kind of money, Conor might not never come back. That's a lot of money. Conor's made a lot of money. He's got other business endeavors, whiskey. He's got a son now. He's just got, Conor doesn't need to get punched in the face and get his joint, you know, slammed on mats. Because a lot of people outside of the sport, casual fans, they don't realize the training that goes into mixed martial arts. It's one of the most grueling, of all sports, it's the most, probably the most grueling training camps you'll go through. It's not like you're just sprinting and lifting weights. You know, you're doing all of that on top of getting punched in the face, getting wrestled, you know, slammed on mats, sparring, hard sparring, whether it's, you know, jiu-jitsu, getting your fucking joints cranked. You're taking damage in your training camps just to go take damage, more damage in your fights, possibly. You know what I'm saying? Now, the idea is the harder you train, the less damage you take in your fight. But there's some people that train hard and they just go in there against a killer and they still get fucked up. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, yeah, Conor might not never come back to the sport. I see what Dana's saying. He's made a lot of money. But I do think we'll at least see Conor come back to fight Nate, if nobody else. We might see Conor fight Nate one more time in the UFC, Floyd one more time in boxing, and then done with the sport. Will we ever see Conor versus Khabib or Tony? Probably not. But with that being said, it is what it is. Dana White also said he made Conor in a new testimony. Now, this is in a brand new testimony from Dana White given under oath while the UFC is dealing with their highly publicized antitrust lawsuit. The UFC president says it was him who made Conor McGregor the superstar that he is today. This is Dana White's exact quote. 4 years ago, Conor McGregor was available for everybody. Bellator, ONE FC, the UFC, everybody out there. You know who went out? He was 7-2. Okay, guy's record was 7-2. There's a zillion of them, right? I went out and got Conor McGregor. I saw him. I liked his personality, and I turned him into a star, one of the biggest stars on earth, right? So, I mean, I see what Dana's saying, but it's, you have to take into consideration. When he says I think he means like him in the UFC, because was it just Dana who turned Conor into a star? That's not true. You know, take it back to this, you know, Ron. Got niggas saying they made Hove. Okay, so if that's true, make another Hove. I used to tell my brother that shit all the time. Oh, you fucking do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, man, you can't just make somebody. If that was true, if Dana White could just make Conor McGregor's, why hasn't he made a bunch of them? You know, why doesn't he go make it? Why doesn't he go find another 7-2 Conor McGregor? You know what I'm saying? And maybe they're on the way to making some with Darren Till on the way and stuff like that. But all I'm saying is Conor McGregor had the personality. He also had the fighting style. If Conor McGregor had a wrestling base, you know what I'm saying, and he wasn't that knockout artist, would he be the same guy? If he came in as a wrestler, would he have been able to ever fight Floyd Mayweather in an octagon? As big as Chael Sonnen or Colby Covington or Daniel Cormier ever become, would they have ever been able to fight Floyd Mayweather with their skill set? You know, if they become a star the wrong way or the right way, John Jones. You know, it takes two to tango. But Dana White, you know, you have to put it into context. He's saying this in a lawsuit, so you know he's you don't exactly know the argument he's making with this. So it's not like he's taking shots at Conor with this necessarily. He could just be defending himself in some type of argument that we don't hear the other side of. But he is saying essentially that, you know, he is able to make stars. But, you know, the UFC can. If you get favorable matchmaking, and, you know, maybe that's what he's saying. A lot of people say Conor McGregor didn't get thrown through the fire earlier in his career. Maybe Dana White and the UFC saw the personality, saw the knockout, and saw the potential. And so they're like, hey, if we throw him in there versus Frankie Edgar in his second fight in the UFC, it's going to derail everything. And then if we, you know what I'm saying, if we give him Chad Mendes too early, if we give him a high-level wrestler, they might just, you know, kill the hype. So, you know, give him a couple favorable matchups until he gets his wrestling on par enough to be able to stop some takedowns, get back up, a la Chad Mendes. Short notice though, but either way, he got up from Chad Mendes and ended up knocking Chad Mendes out. But he didn't have to fight Chad Mendes until later in his career when he was already approaching the title. Maybe if Conor had to fight a higher level wrestler earlier, he wouldn't have became a star. So the UFC could have helped beat him. They definitely had a part in Conor becoming the star he is today. And that's a fact. So with that being said, I've said enough on this video. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button and also hit the notification bell right next to it so you're notified every time I upload a video. I'm out.
Bye, Felicia.